Welcome to RWG Publishing, where we love exploring faith, in new and exciting ways.
Yeah.
And today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Rose Petals from Jesus, a book by Ariel Curry.
Okay.
Now, this book is kind of a unique blend of personal testimony and spiritual exploration with a focus on developing a very intimate relationship with Jesus.
Okay.
And it's not like your typical theological text.
Right.
It's more like peeking into Ariel Curry's personal journal
Mm-hmm.
as she describes her encounters with Jesus.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me was how vivid her descriptions were.
Yeah.
I mean, she uses so much sensory detail.
Absolutely.
It's not just seeing visions or hearing voices. She talks about taste, touch, smell. All of her senses are engaged in her connection with Jesus.
Yeah, and it's not just like a passing reference
Right.
to these senses. Like, she goes into detail about, the taste of wine, embodying the love of Jesus, or feeling his touch like an electric current, or even connecting the fragrance of roses to his presence.
Yeah, it's really a vibrant way of depicting her relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, I was really intrigued by that, too.
I think it's really fascinating how she uses these physical sensations to bridge the gap between the spiritual and physical.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's making those intangible aspects of faith more concrete and relatable,
Uh-huh.
especially for people who connect with faith through emotions and physical experiences.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's like by grounding her spiritual encounters in those very specific details,
Yes.
it makes it more accessible to the reader,
Exactly.
more real.
And it makes you wonder, how we typically perceive and interact with the divine.
Right.
Is it always this distant and abstract thing?
Yeah.
Or can it be experienced in a tangible way, even physical?
Right.
And Curry's experiences seem to suggest that it can be physical.
The very thought-provoking approach.
Yeah.
And speaking of thought-provoking, the book also uses a lot of romantic language and imagery
Yes.
to describe her relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
We're talking about dancing with Jesus, kissing him,
Yeah.
receiving gifts from him,
Yeah.
experiencing this longing and desire for him.
Yeah. That's definitely going to raise some eyebrows.
It does stand out as, different.
Yeah. It's important to consider the context, I think.
Yeah.
She's trying to express the depth of her love and devotion for Jesus.
Yeah.
And that goes beyond the typical language that we use to describe religious experience.
It's like she's trying to capture the intensity, the passion.
Of that connection.
Exactly. And this type of language has a long history in Christian mystical tradition.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's not necessarily meant to be taken literally,
Okay.
but rather a symbolic representation of that profound union with the divine that mystics have described throughout history.
So it's more about conveying the depth of feeling,
Yes.
that merging with the divine,
Yes.
than a literal romantic relationship.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to come with some challenges and potential misunderstandings, of course.
Because not everyone's going to be comfortable with that level of romantic language.
Right.
It pushes boundaries and challenges traditional interpretations, and that can be unsettling for some.
And it's interesting how she navigates those potentially controversial elements
Right.
while still conveying the sincerity of her experience.
Yes. It's a delicate balance.
It is.
And it raises questions about how we approach language
Yeah.
and expression in matters of faith. How do we express the profound,
Right.
the mystical, in a way that's both authentic and accessible?
Yeah.
And she seems to be experimenting with pushing those boundaries, using that language of intimacy and passion
Right.
to convey the depth of her spiritual encounters.
And on that note of, exploring faith in unconventional ways,
Yes.
one of the most compelling aspects of the book is how she weaves her personal experiences with insights into spiritual transformation.
Yes.
She doesn't just describe her encounters,
Right.
but she reflects on how they've changed her,
Yes.
how they've drawn her closer to Jesus and impacted her daily life.
This personal transformation is a recurring theme.
Yeah.
It's like each encounter with Jesus propels her further on this path of growth,
Yeah.
leading her toward a deeper understanding of herself and her faith.
I was particularly struck by her descriptions of a heightened awareness of Jesus's presence in her life.
Yes.
That shift in focus from worldly concerns to a desire to please Jesus and an increased longing for holiness and purity. It's like a ripple effect, with each encounter creating more profound change within her.
And that's right at the heart of many branches of Christianity.
Yeah.
This concept of becoming more Christ-like through a close relationship with him.
Right.
It's a journey of shedding the old ways and embracing a new way of being,
Yeah.
one that's aligned with God's will.
But it doesn't sound like it's a passive process.
Yeah.
It seems like this transformation requires active effort and intentionality.
You're absolutely right. It's not about magically becoming a different person overnight.
Right.
It's a conscious decision to surrender to God's will,
Yeah.
to allow those encounters with the divine to shape and mold you even when it's challenging or uncomfortable.
And this idea of surrender
Yeah,
is a powerful one, and it seems to be a major theme in Rose Petals from Jesus.
absolutely.
Curry talks about learning to find joy in waiting on God's timing, trusting that he is working even when his presence isn't felt.
This concept of waiting on God is deeply rooted in Christian theology.
Yeah.
It's tied to patience, trust, and faith.
Right.
It's about acknowledging that we don't always have control and that sometimes we need to surrender our own desires and timelines and just trust that God has a bigger plan, even if we don't see it in the moment.
Which can be incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
especially in our modern culture.
Yes.
That prioritizes instant gratification.
That's right. We want everything now, and waiting can feel like stagnation.
Exactly.
But she suggests that this period of surrender can actually be fertile ground for growth.
So you're saying that we can learn and evolve while we wait.
Precisely, it's a time for deepening our faith, strengthening our trust in God, and developing resilience. It's not always comfortable, but it can lead to profound transformation.
And if anyone is intrigued by what they're hearing, I would encourage you to visit revivalwavesofgloryministries.com.
Okay.
You can learn more about Ariel Curry's ministry and find resources that explore these themes in greater depth. It's a great way to delve deeper into these ideas and see how they might resonate with your own spiritual journey.
It's definitely a valuable resource for anyone seeking a more personal and experiential approach to faith.
Absolutely. And speaking of experiencing faith,
Yes.
Curry's book also takes us on a journey to heaven,
Okay.
painting incredibly vivid descriptions of its beauty and the joy of being in Jesus' presence. We're talking dancing in a heavenly ballroom flying through the sky, with Jesus visiting magnificent gardens.
Wow.
It's all very visually rich.
This imagery of heaven plays a significant role in Christian belief. It provides a source of hope and inspiration, a vision of ultimate fulfillment and communion with God. It's a reminder that our earthly struggles are temporary, and there's a greater reality awaiting us.
But I imagine people have different ideas about what heaven is like,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Is she presenting her own personal vision, or is she drawing from specific biblical descriptions?
That's a great question. While she does draw inspiration from biblical imagery, she also infuses her descriptions with a unique personal flair.
Okay.
Conveying that wonder and joy that she experiences in her own encounters with Jesus. So it's less about presenting a definitive theological statement,
Right.
and more about inviting readers to imagine the possibilities to open their hearts to that boundless love and beauty that heaven represents.
So it's more about capturing the essence of heaven,
Yes.
that feeling of being in God's presence,
Yes.
rather than the literal depiction.
Exactly. And it's this emphasis on personal experience, this willingness to explore faith through vivid imagery and unconventional language that makes Rose Petals from Jesus such a unique and compelling read.
And on that note of unique and compelling, let's delve further into Curry's experiences and explore some of the deeper theological concepts that she touches upon.
Okay, I'm eager to unpack those as well.
Awesome. So let's continue our deep dive into Rose Petals from Jesus.
Okay. Picking up where we left off, one of the things that I think is so compelling about Curry's book is how she interweaves her personal encounters with these deeper theological ideas. Like, for instance, she doesn't just describe a journey to heaven.
Yeah.
She emphasizes that transformative process of becoming more Christ-like along the way.
Right. And that transformation, she suggests, is fueled by those intimate moments with the divine.
Right.
She talks about, feeling his presence in a very personal way, experiencing his touch, his embrace.
Even his kiss.
Yeah, even his kiss. And yeah, those descriptions are definitely some of the more striking and potentially controversial aspects of the book.
Yeah.
But it's important to approach those passages with sensitivity and understanding.
Right.
And remembering that she's using this language of intimacy and physical sensation.
Right.
To convey the depth of her spiritual experience.
Yeah.
That merging with the divine.
Yes.
And it's a symbolic representation of that profound union, not a literal depiction of a romantic relationship.
Precisely. But I can see how those descriptions could be challenging for some readers.
It really pushes the boundaries of how we typically talk about faith and spirituality.
Absolutely. And she doesn't shy away from that either.
No, she doesn't.
In fact, it seems like she's intentionally challenging readers to think about their own relationship with faith.
Right.
Their own level of surrender to God's will. How do we experience that intimacy with the divine, and what form does it take?
That's a powerful question. And speaking of powerful questions, one thing that stood out to me was how she seamlessly weaves personal experience with traditional Christian theology.
Yeah.
She doesn't just talk about her own encounters, but she also delves into concepts like the Trinity, God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and how they kind of intersect in her life.
That's a crucial aspect of Christian doctrine, this idea that God exists as three distinct persons, yet unified in one divine essence. It's a complex concept that's been debated and interpreted for centuries, but she approaches it through this lens of personal relationship, describing her unique interactions with each member of the Trinity, feeling their distinct love and guidance.
It's like she has a personal connection with each one. Like they're all part of her spiritual family. Each playing a specific role in her life. It's a beautiful image, that sense of being embraced and loved by the Trinity.
It really is. And it reminds us that we're not alone in our faith journey. That the Trinity is a source of constant guidance and support, always present, working in our lives.
And this brings to mind another theme that resonated with me, this idea of movement and rhythm in faith.
Oh, yeah.
She frequently uses this metaphor of dance to describe her relationship with Jesus, emphasizing the joy and freedom of moving in harmony with the divine.
Such a powerful image.
Yeah, it really is.
It challenges the notion of faith as something static, rigid. Instead, she presents it as this dynamic experience, a dance of surrender, joyful movement with the divine.
It's like she's saying faith is not about standing still.
Right.
It's about embracing that flow, that rhythm of God's love.
Yes.
Allowing ourselves to be swept up in it.
And that willingness to be led, that surrender to the movement of the Spirit, that's where true transformation begins.
Yeah.
It's a continual process of growth guided by that intimate connection with the divine.
And Curry doesn't just rely on personal experience and traditional theological ideas. She also delves into scripture, exploring specific passages, drawing out, personal applications. She's particularly drawn to the Song of Solomon.
Oh, the Song of Solomon.
Which she sees as a blueprint for cultivating this deep and intimate relationship with Jesus.
Now, that is a fascinating and often debated book within the Bible.
Yeah.
It's rich with symbolism and poetic language, and its interpretation has sparked a lot of discussion amongst theologians for centuries.
Right.
Some see it as a purely allegorical representation of God's love for his people, while others, like Curry, interpret it as a guide for experiencing a passionate and intimate connection with Christ.
It sounds like she's encouraging readers to look beyond the surface.
Yes.
To delve into the emotional depths of those biblical texts and discover personal meaning within them.
Exactly. She invites us to engage with Scripture in a personal, experiential way, to allow those ancient words to come alive and speak to our hearts. In a new and powerful way. It's not about blindly accepting traditional interpretations.
Right.
It's about wrestling with the text, questioning, seeking understanding, and allowing those encounters with Scripture to shape our own spiritual journeys.
It's like she's encouraging a dialogue.
Right.
A back and forth between the reader and the text.
Yes.
Rather than a passive absorption of information.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And that approach, that willingness to engage with faith in a personal and dynamic way, that's what makes Rose Petals from Jesus so thought-provoking and inspiring.
It's amazing how she manages to weave together these different strands, personal experience, theological concepts, scriptural interpretation, and even creative metaphors like dance.
Right.
To create this cohesive and compelling narrative about her relationship with Jesus. It's not your typical approach to spirituality.
It's definitely unconventional, and that's what makes it so refreshing. It challenges us to think outside the box, to move beyond the limitations of traditional religious language, and explore the boundless possibilities of encountering the divine.
It's like she's saying, come explore with me. Let's push the boundaries and discover new ways of experiencing faith.
Yes.
New depths of connection with God.
Exactly, and that exploration, that willingness to step outside our comfort zones and embrace new ways of perceiving the divine, that's what ultimately leads to spiritual growth and transformation.
It's about opening our hearts, our minds, and even our imaginations
Yes.
to the fullness of God's love and presence in our lives.
Speaking of opening our imaginations,
Yeah.
she also emphasizes the importance of imagination
Yes.
in nurturing our spiritual lives.
Yeah, she talks about using her imagination to visualize herself with Jesus,
Yes.
to experience his presence in a tangible way, even to engage in conversations with him.
That's a fascinating point. The role of imagination in spirituality is often overlooked,
It is.
but it can be such a powerful tool for connecting with the divine. It's about tapping into our inner creativity, visualizing ourselves in God's presence, and allowing those images to deepen our sense of connection and intimacy.
But some might question that approach,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that just making things up?
Sure.
How do we distinguish between imagination
Right.
and delusion?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. It's important to remember that she's not advocating for creating a false reality.
Okay.
She's using imagination as a tool to access a deeper spiritual truth,
Right.
to make those intangible aspects of faith more real and relatable. It's about opening ourselves to the possibilities,
Yeah.
allowing those images to inspire us, guide us, to deepen our understanding of God's love and presence.
It's like she's saying, don't limit yourself to what you can see and touch.
Yes.
Let your imagination soar.
Yes.
Explore the boundless realm of the spirit.
Exactly. And that exploration can lead to profound insights and experiences, can help us bridge the gap between the physical and spiritual. Create a space within ourselves where we can truly encounter God in a way that transcends the limitations of our senses.
And if you're finding this conversation as fascinating as I am and want to explore these ideas further, I'd encourage you to visit revivalwavesofgloryministries.com.
Okay.
You can learn more about Ariel Curry's ministry and find resources that will help you deepen your own connection with the divine.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone seeking a more personal and experiential approach to faith.
Absolutely. It's a great way to continue this exploration.
Yeah.
And see how these concepts might resonate with your own spiritual journey.
Right.
One of the things that makes Rose Petals from Jesus so relatable is Curry's willingness to be vulnerable.
Yes.
She doesn't just share her triumphs and ecstatic encounters.
Right.
She also talks about her struggles, her doubts,
Yes.
those moments when she felt distant from God or questioned her faith.
That honesty is so refreshing.
Yeah.
In the realm of spirituality, there's often this pressure to present a perfect image, to pretend like we have it all figured out.
Right.
But her vulnerability reminds us that it's okay to struggle,
Yeah.
to question, to doubt. It's all part of the journey.
It's like she's saying, hey, I'm human.
Yeah.
I have moments of weakness and uncertainty, but that doesn't disqualify me from experiencing God's love.
Right.
Or sharing my journey with others.
Exactly. And that message is so liberating.
It is.
It allows us to embrace our humanity, our imperfections, and still pursue a deep and meaningful relationship with God. It's in those moments of vulnerability that we often experience the greatest growth and the deepest connection with the divine.
That's such a powerful reminder. It takes courage to be vulnerable, especially when talking about something as personal as faith. But her openness creates a space for honesty and authenticity.
Yes.
Allowing readers to connect with her on a deeper level.
Absolutely. It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
And that even in those moments of doubt and uncertainty, God's love and grace are always available to us.
Now, shifting gears a bit, one of the more intriguing aspects of Curry's book is how she describes her encounters with angels.
Okay.
And these aren't just those ethereal winged beings we see in paintings.
Right.
She portrays them as powerful spiritual beings, messengers of God, actively involved in her life and ministry.
The belief in angels is widespread across various religious and spiritual traditions. They're often seen as intermediaries between the human and divine realms, offering guidance, protection, intervention in times of need. And her experiences definitely tap into that ancient belief, giving it a personal and contemporary twist.
It's like she's describing having this divine support system, a team of spiritual beings working behind the scenes to guide and protect her.
That's a great way to put it. And she doesn't just sense their presence. She describes feeling their touch, hearing their voices, even seeing their radiant forms.
Wow.
These encounters serve to reinforce her faith, to remind her that she's not alone, that God is constantly watching over her.
I imagine those experiences would be quite powerful, even life-changing.
Yeah.
But what about those who are skeptical about the existence of angels?
Sure.
Would her accounts resonate with them?
Yeah.
Or would they just dismiss them as fantasy?
Well, it depends on the individual's perspective.
Yeah.
And openness to such experiences, some might find them compelling,
Huh.
while others might interpret them differently.
Okay.
What's important is that she presents these encounters as a genuine part of her spiritual journey,
Right.
offering a glimpse into the unseen realm, the spiritual dimension that surrounds us. It's an invitation to consider the possibility that there's more to reality
Yeah.
than meets the eye.
It's fascinating how she presents those encounters with angels, not as something extraordinary or out of the ordinary, but as a natural extension of her connection with the divine. It's like the more she opens herself up to God, the more she becomes aware of these unseen forces at work in her life.
Right, and it's just that maybe these experiences aren't as rare as we think.
Yeah.
Maybe we just haven't cultivated the sensitivity or the awareness to perceive them.
It's very possible.
You know, her book definitely challenges us to kind of expand our understanding of what's possible in the realm of the spiritual.
Absolutely. And speaking of pushing boundaries, one of the things that really struck me about Rose Petals from Jesus was just the overall tone of boldness and confidence that she expresses in her relationship with God.
Yeah.
It's not about approaching faith with timidity or fear, but with this sense of joyful abandon and a willingness to fully embrace the mystery and wonder of the divine.
Yeah, the boldness is so inspiring.
It is.
It's like she's saying, don't be afraid to dive deep.
Right.
You know, don't hold back. Embrace the fullness of God's love and allow it to transform you. It's a message that I think resonates really deeply, especially in a world that often encourages us to play it safe
Yes.
and conform to the norm.
Yeah.
She's reminding us that faith is an adventure, a journey of discovery, and sometimes that requires us to step outside of our comfort zones, embrace the unknown.
It's about allowing ourselves to be surprised by God, to encounter him in unexpected ways, and to trust that he will meet us wherever we are on our spiritual journey.
Exactly, and that trust, that willingness to surrender to the flow of God's love and grace, that's ultimately what allows us to experience the transformative power of faith.
Absolutely. It's about letting go of our preconceived notions, our fears, our doubts, and allowing ourselves to be swept up in that boundless love and grace of the divine.
I love that.
Curry's book is a beautiful testament to that transformative power.
It is.
It's a reminder that faith is not a static set of beliefs, but a living, breathing relationship that has the potential to change us from the inside out. It's about opening our hearts, our minds, and our imaginations to the possibility of encountering God in ways that we never thought possible.
And that encounter, that intimate connection with the divine, is what ultimately gives our lives meaning and purpose. You know, it's about discovering our true identity as beloved children of God and allowing that love to flow through us and touch the world around us.
You know, if you're feeling inspired to embark on your own journey of spiritual exploration, to discover the depths of God's love for yourself, I encourage you to visit revivalwavesofgloryministries.com.
Okay.
It's a fantastic starting point, a place where you can connect with Curry's ministry and find resources that can help you deepen your relationship with the divine.
It's a wonderful way to nurture your faith, open yourself to the transformative power of God's love, and discover the boundless possibilities that await you when you embrace the adventure of faith.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Rose Petals from Jesus.
Yeah, this was great.
It's a book that really challenges us to rethink our assumptions about faith, to embrace the power of personal experience and open ourselves to the limitless possibilities of encountering God in new and unexpected ways.
It's a beautiful reminder that faith is a journey, not a destination, and that the most profound discoveries are often made when we step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the mystery and wonder of the spiritual realm.
So as you go about your day, we invite you to reflect on this question. How do you connect with the idea of intimacy with Jesus? And what role do sensory experiences play in your own spiritual journey?
That's a great question.
It's something to ponder as you continue your own exploration of faith. Thanks for listening to the Deep Dive Podcast, and remember, for more on Ariel, Curry, and Rose Petals from Jesus, visit revivalwavesofgloryministries.com.